There we go.
Hello.
Hello. All right, everybody. I'm sorry we are running late. There was some confusion about scheduling, I guess. I'm not sure. We'll see if Moxie ends up being able to join us later or not. I am not sure what happened there. Oh, my phone's making noises at me. Sorry. So let me pull this up real quick. Tonight we are talking about the Lake Bodom murders, which are, excuse me, which is Finland's most infamous, wow, I spelled that wrong. I'm gonna have to fix that later. Finland's most infamous unsolved homicide case. So I have been dealing with chronic illness flare-up this week, so I feel like crap. So my research on this is not the best. And basically, we're just going to roll off of Wikipedia and what I gleaned from the podcasts I was listening to earlier. So this took place in, I was just listening to somebody who's actually Finnish say this. Espoo, Finland, I want to say, is how it's pronounced. This was June 5th of 1960. There were kids. There were 4 kids that went camping. Let's see if I can pronounce their names right. I'm not going to try the last names because these are Finnish and I am not. That is not a language I speak. There was Alya, who is 15. Anya, who is also 15. Their boyfriends were 18-year-old Seppo and also 18-year-old Nils. Oh, I'm sorry. They went camping on the 4th, but they were found on the 5th. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what the time was in the morning. Okay, so at about 6 a.m. on the 5th, the morning of the 5th, a group of boys who were bird watching noticed the collapsed tent and a blonde man walking away from the site. There's not really a whole lot more description of this guy from what they saw. And then the bodies of the victims were discovered at about 11 a.m. by a carpenter named Esko Oiva, maybe? Johansson. At which point he alerted the police and they got their opinion. The killer had not, or the murder had not happened from inside the tent, and I will post a picture of the crime scene of the tent with the show notes later. Rather, the killer actually went through the tent to get at them, like hacked through the side of the tent. He had, let's see, was it Malia? Mala? That's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to look up how to pronounce that really quick. Because I feel like I'm pronouncing it very, very wrong. pronounce. No, not Malia. Malia. If it was Malia, I would know how to pronounce it. Seriously, Google. I heard it pronounced two different ways today. And one was Millie, and another one was more like was from somebody who's actually Finnish. And I think it was more like Malia. I could be very wrong. It's Maila. She received the most intense injuries, not just injuries, like it's like whoever attacked these kids was very specifically raging against her. Let's see. Now I have to. Nobody cares. I'll get back to that in a minute. Oh, no. Come back. Really? Why are you being like this?
Ooh, some of these last names are rather interesting.
Right? Yeah, Google's like, no, I'm going to teach you how to pronounce Malia for her first name. I'm like, I know how to pronounce it. I have a friend with that name. Also, I watched Teen Wolf. Oh, man. I haven't watched that show.
Yeah, I'm going through some stories while you're talking, so.
Sorry.
You know what I'm
the source that I'm working off of didn't actually describe the damage to these kids.
Yeah,
so I have
that's
to
what
go and see if I can find one, because it was on the podcasts, but I don't want to say it wrong, just going off of memory. Okay, arrival of campsite, blah, 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 blah. Here we go.
Okay, I got something.
All right. So these guys were stabbed and bludgeoned to death. No, I swear only Mala was.
I'm on the medium. It says that the attacker did not damage the victims from within the tent, but instead assaulted them from outside with a knife and an unidentified blunt item through the tent's edges.
Yeah, that's what we were just saying. I'm just trying to figure out, because here we go. Okay. So I could have sworn that she was the only one who was actually stabbed. Oh, stabbed even after death. Okay, so they were bludgeoned and stabbed to death. The two, Anya and Seppo, were found inside the tent. Malia was on top of the tent. She received the worst of the beatings, blows, so forth, as I just said. She was the only one who had been stabbed post-mortem, continued to be stabbed post-mortem, and she was also naked from the waist down.
I don't know what that means.
Mm-hmm. However, Niles was he survived.
Mm-hmm.
Although with injuries. He was injured, but he survived. Now okay, so they never found out. It looks like they never found the weapons. This was kind of bungled because the police let way too many people into the crime scene and the surrounding area. Like, they put out a call of, oh, everybody come help us figure out what's going on here. And it shredded any evidence that they would have been able to find for the case. There were some missing things from the campsite, but it was just kind of random. It looks like let's see. So the kids got there on motorcycle. Did they say that it was stolen or just the keys? Okay, so the keys to the motorcycles were gone. The motorcycles themselves were left behind. And don't go by his last name. I will never keep up with last names, people. I know it's the proper way to do it, but like when they're referring to last names, I don't know. I can't do that. I think it's Gustafsson. So that was announced. His shoes were missing also, randomly. Let's see what else. But they were later found roughly half a mile from the tent, along with other parts of his clothing. So it's not even like whoever attacked them was trying to rob them. It was just pure violence.
Like somebody just finally snapped and all the rage just kind of.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to amend my statement from earlier, and it's the same thing. It's just with more detail. So they didn't cordon off the area at the time, which left onlookers, which if those our watchers will hail back to the how could I forget it? 1 second. It's the episode about family. Sorry, we did like Family Annihilators back to back last month, so I'm trying to remember which one they were. What the fuck? Here we go. About the Lawson family murder, where people were going so far as to collect jars of blood from the crime scene. We know that onlookers have no boundaries. So then the police were like, oh crap, now we have to like fix the fact after everything's already tampered with. They had to make good, so they enlisted the help of soldiers to help search the area, and all that did was further destroy evidence. There was just nothing to go on. So these suspects are really interesting, and I'm hoping I can find as much information as I was hearing in the podcasts I listened to earlier about this, which I listened to the Morbid Podcast and Redhanded Podcasts. Redhanded was the one who had the guy who's actually finished. That was a guest on the show talking about this. And they had, they had some really interesting information. So the first suspect in the murders was, I can get to Carl Vladimir and Gilstrom, maybe is his last name. Known in the local community as Kiosk Man because he owned and operated a nearby stall. His kiosk was near Lake Bodom and was frequented by the campers because, as was there, that's where you get your supplies. But he kind of had a reputation for being hostile toward the campers.
Yeah.
Which, bad for business. I don't get it. These people are giving you their business. But there are claims that he would cut down tents and throw rocks at hikers.
Yep, I read that one.
Oh, thanks for buying my product so that I can afford the tools to cut down your tents, you scoundrel customers. There were kind of rumors that they saw that he was seen leaving the murder scene, except for like legit, there's nobody to actually back that up. All that was seen was the blonde man that was coming from the area of the tents by those boys, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah, and he's allowed to walk the woods.
Mm-hmm. Now, this guy, though, what really did him in wasn't just he was a grouchy dude who would have been in the right place at the right time. He confessed. He was just like,
Yeah, he was.
I'm gonna confess. No, wait, I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna confess. No, wait, I'm gonna take it back. And he, when in these confessions, he knew intimate, not necessarily intimate, but he knew details of the case that had not been made public, which is something that investigators are looking for, because then it's how would he know if he hadn't been involved type thing. And the police were like, sure, okay, you make all those confessions you want. We're just going to ignore you for what I don't know why.
Yeah. So the only one that really testified as to about his whereabouts was his wife, and
yep,
she, not like she had something to lose there. So
yep. So apparently he was abusive to her, and let's see. Let me make sure I've got the right one. I think I've got this. Osmond was the... Okay, no, so it was her. Okay, so it is Carl. Yeah, so his wife provided him with an alibi for that night. However, so it goes down that 9 years after the murders, Carl drowned himself in Lake Bodom. Which apparently, okay, so this is interesting to me because this article is saying that they had requested DNA evidence from him. And after he drowned himself, it was impossible to get it. I'm like, if he was constantly confessing, because I think the podcast I was listening to, they said he confessed like 4 different times to it.
So this wasn't a drunken one night thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It said he confessed during both drunken and sober states. So he confessed to it like 4 times. And the police were like, okay, whatever. And then he
sure, ma'am.
himself 9 years later and like, oh no, the DNA evidence we wanted. We've been searching for this for years.
Why not just get it while he was alive?
Damn 9 years. Yeah, 9 years. Although I'm not really sure what DNA evidence what they really did with DNA evidence back in the 60s. That makes like 0 sense, because it wasn't really until the 80s that DNA evidence even became a thing. But yeah.
Well, was that, I mean, this is a different country, so
That's true.
maybe they have different resources.
That's true. Finland is also more advanced than the US, so that makes sense. The second suspect remained of interest until 2004, and this is Hans Osmond. He was rumored to be a former KGB spy, and he had been living in that area. He is confirmed as having been an Auschwitz prison guard. Auschwitz, yes. That was just recently, apparently. Let's see, the podcast episode I was listening to was from 2017. So, yeah. Nazi soldier, possible KGB spy. Not exactly a person with a solid background to be rolling on there. He was just kind of viewed as an outlier in the community. So he was what really just kept to himself. And it didn't help. No one really getting to know him didn't help with the whole, he's a KGB spy. And it was one of those compounding things where it ended up with him like constantly being suspected whenever a murder came up. So interesting stuff about what happened is that he had gone to the Helsinki surgical hospital the day after the attack, which I'm assuming that would have been the 6th, not the 5th. If they say the day after, yeah, that would have been the 6th because it was in the morning that they were killed. With what was reported to be his fingernails were black, or his appearance at the time, where his fingernails were black with dirt and his clothes were covered in red stains. Hospital staff said that Osmond was nervous and aggressive, which kind of sounds like the reputation he had anyway, so it just might be his personality. So the police did just kind of a cursory questioning, just the standards. And wait a minute. Did I get my wives wrong? I did get my wives wrong, right? I think I got my wives wrong. Hold on a second. This is what happens when you don't give wives names.
Well, women in history.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Wait. Which one was it? Oh, this is obnoxious. Hold on a second. My bad. Like Bodom murders. I just want to make sure I know which one had the wife that was his alibi.
For the wife, for the alibi?
Yeah.
That was Gilstrom's wife.
was another. I think I skipped over that because on her deathbed, she recounted her.
You skipped over a couple of things with him.
Yeah, I did. Because on her deathbed, she recounted her statement of him being home with her, of being her alibi, or being his alibi, and said that she was, or that he was the killer. He told her she knew. So the red stains on Hans's clothing was never investigated, even though the doctors were like, dude, this is blood. The police were like, no, whatever. 9 years later, they want to bitch about not being able to get DNA off of Gulstrom, but then they're they've got DNH on Hans's clothes, and they're like,
no, he's just a crazy guy. We're not going to do anything with him.
Even though the doctors say it's blood, let's just ignore this.
But police know more than doctors, Emily.
Always.
Don't you know this?
Always.
Why would a doctor know what blood is?
Okay, so I'm not finding all of the information I had earlier, because I know there's a lot more about these two suspects, and I'm finding
Gilstrom's, he was filling in that well a couple of days after the murders.
Let's open this article.
Oh,
I'm just opening another one to see if it goes more in about them killers. Or those two suspects. There was a pillowcase.
Ooh, a pillowcase.
A pillowcase was found next to the tent, wrapped up and tied with an elastic band. This piece of evidence would prove to be confusing to investigators in later courtroom.
Well, what was in it?
So both blood and semen were found on the fabric, but they couldn't determine whose blood and whose semen. So,
Interesting.
Not like they couldn't have tried to get samples from the guy who confessed 4 times. Or the guy
like you said, it was the 60s, and DNA, even if they were more advanced, they probably didn't put much thought into that, and we're looking for more in-your-face evidence.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Like, we couldn't figure out whose stuff was on the pillowcase. I mean, we had opportunity to gather DNA evidence from 2 suspects, but we're like, pass.
Yeah. Science isn't going to help us solve crimes. We'll do it on our own.
Mm-hmm. What is this witchcraft?
Anybody who's outside the box is witchcraft.
I'm just trying to find if there's anything more I want to say on these guys. So,
well, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his last name because I'm going to say it wrong. But once the young boy had given the description of the man that they saw in the woods, Hans did cut off all of his hair.
yes, that's true. And he admitted to the fact that he cut his hair because that was the description. Now, what's interesting is, let's see, who was it that went under hypnosis to try to remember the description? It looks like Alavi, not going to try the last name, was one of the people who saw this blonde man. So let's see if he's the one who, so he went under hypnosis. Oh no, I'm sorry. This guy. So Alavi gave a better description of the guy he'd seen, the blonde guy that had been seen. It was Niles that went under hypnosis in the hope of dredging up more memories and more details of what the suspect looked like. What both of them said were actually fairly similar, and I will post a picture of the police sketches that came from them. This is where we have the weird funeral photo, because very rarely do you have police sketches that when you actually see the person, it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely really what their face looked like. It's just kind of like it.
That's what I was thinking, because I'm comparing them right now. I'm like, holy.
And then you have the guy at the funeral who looked exactly like the police composite. And it's not like it's not like a standard face that is like a human face that's like, oh yeah, that was just a really good. It's like this cartoon face on a human body.
Oh, you were nicer than I was.
Yeah.
I thought you was like an alien.
Yeah, it's weird. So I will post the comparison photos because it's weird. And this is that, so with this, based on the sketches and the description of the blonde man leaving the scene, the person who most closely fit that look was Hans. So, basically, this goes cold. Nothing's leading to anything until 44 years later, the police were like, went back and looked at the blood splatter analysis, and Niles Gustafsson, oh my gosh, if anybody knows how to say that, please let us know, became prime suspect. Not just prime suspect, it was, he did it. Oh yeah, full show. He did it. Oh, cool. This is like an actual picture of the tent in modern times. I'll have to share that. So the theory became, and here's the thing, and this was something that was being said on the other podcast I was listening to today, is that each suspect has enough questions behind them that it makes each of them equally suspicious. Like, I believe Hans actually hanged himself on, what was it, the 8-year anniversary after the death, after the murders, which is sus. And then they do this blood spatter analysis, and they say, okay, so here's our theory. Now, if we'll remember, Niles was...
the blood spatter on the shoes?
Yes. So if we'll remember,
Okay.
Niles was Molly's boy... Molly... However this crap you say her name. He was her boyfriend, and she was the one who took the most intense brutality of the attack. She was also the one who was naked from the waist down. It's reasonable to believe that the semen on the pillowcase was from whatever had been done to her. So the idea comes about that he snapped. The boys had been drinking, and they snapped. He snapped, and he killed his girlfriend. There were a lot of different things that maybe they had a fight. There was the claim that he got mad that she wouldn't sleep with him. But it was basically the reason that it was so violent against her is because he was personally pissed at her.
But how do you, even drunk, how do you get so angry about somebody you care about to do that? This is why I stay away from this stuff, because it just breaks my heart.
Yeah. Well, and it's... there's a difference between obsession and love, and a lot of people blur that line. And societally, we're taught to blur that line.
Yeah.
A lot of the great romance stories throughout history reaching into modern times.
And movies do not help that at all.
Yeah, is they involve a lot of violation of consent and a lot of actually very obsessive and toxic behaviors.
50 Shades of Grey, anybody?
Oh my gosh, I have to send you the transcript of the dream I had last night, because it was wild. And it started out with so this was like a dream within a dream, like Inception style stuff. This happens to me a lot. And I have very vivid dreams. But it started out, what I like to call round one, was the understanding that this was going to be like a spoof on 50 Shades of Grey, and then each round became like a spoof on a spoof until it just completely broke down into, apparently, I had to, there were witches by the end of it. It was wild. It was wild.
I had a crazy dream last night. I was doing that research for the upcoming episode. And I think he said March.
Yeah. Oh, hey, by the way, Kelsey is officially part of our family now.
Hello.
Yes.
So let me tell you, I think these people might have delivered a curse about anybody, because the weirdest dream, and I woke up thinking I saw a shadow outside of the person that we're doing.
Oh,
I didn't just keep it hitting after that. I'm like, I'm pretty sure if this was real, it would have moved by now after staring at it for 20 minutes.
Like an episode of sleep paralysis. Oh, that's funny.
Like, no.
You know, I do dream interpretation. You get weird dreams, you can send them to me anytime. It's because I always have to.
You told me that a long time ago, and then I totally forgot about it. Now I remember.
Yeah, I should specify that offer is for Kelsey. Not that I don't love all y'all, but these things get personal, and you might not want me knowing that much about you.
And most of the time, my dreams are really, really boring and involve cars.
Car dreams. So how are those feelings of loss of control?
Yeah, I got control issues. Ask anyone in my family.
Okay, so the shoe evidence, just getting back on track because we are right into time. Not that we ever do well at staying on track in these episodes. But the shoe evidence is the weird thing. Like, people were really latched onto, because it's like, if he was being attacked, why isn't there blood on his shoes? What the fuck happened with the shoes? There's blood everywhere. These people were violently killed, and his shoes are like pretty pristine and.
The only way I can logic it is he was bending over. The only way I can logic that is he was bending over in such a way that his shoes were kind of out of the line of fire. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and it makes, like, I get you if you take off your shoes before you go to sleep, whatever. But it's like his
shoes, I want to be dead in them.
His clothes lacked the proper amount of blood for what would be consistent with him being in the tent while everybody else was being murdered. He could have been sleeping. Yeah. So his injuries, it's like, okay, yeah, he was injured, but they were minor compared to, being bludgeoned and violently stabbed to death. Like, he got beat up, but he survived. And there's the question of, well, how much of that was, if he did kill them, was from being them fighting back, especially where Seppo was equal to be able to really put up a fight. So I'm trying to see if they have the name of this woman. But apparently in this 44
girlfriend.
In the 44 years later, part of this case that against Niles was that this woman came forward and said that her and her friends visited her, or that two boys visited her and her friends about 1 kilometer away around the area of the Lake Bodom at that late the night of the 4th, that they were drunk and that Niles was trying to pick a fight with Seppo. And the police were like, yeah, see? Proof. Because, dumb drunk kids always violently murder their friends. It's such
I mean, I could, a good old-fashioned fist fight, but
yeah,
that violent.
Mm. It's such a loose non-evidence, and I'm not saying it's always best see something, say something. We learned about this in the Kitty Genovese case. See something, say something. However, without any further backing of this scenario, and with the time lapse before anything was said, it's basically not evidence.
Yeah, I mean, science has proven over and over again that memories change over time.
Yeah.
And what's the effect called?
I can't remember.
Where two people remember that I forget what effect it's called, but where two people remember something differently. They see the same thing, but they remember it differently.
Okay. I don't think that's not the Mandela effect, but the Mandela effect is a really, really interesting case study in memory. We actually did an episode about that. And yes, as you were saying, my brain.
Hang on a second.
As you were saying, with the science, is that, yeah, we've discovered that when we remember something, we're not remembering the original event. We're remembering the last time we remembered it. There's actually an Amazeballs movie about this with Robin Williams. Let me see if I can look up and find out. Movies.
In memory,
memory. Final Cut is this amazing movie with Robin Williams, and this is actually it's one of his serious roles, and he's actually morally ambiguous. But the whole point of this, or the whole concept behind this, is that memory chips. People have memory chips put into their kids' heads, and it like records their whole lives, whatever. And it's not something that everybody has. It's like kind of an upper class thing. And Robin Williams's job is to take all of that recorded data and cut it into a memorial video that like makes the person, or shows the person in the best light. And it really plays on memory, and I don't want to like spoil too much about it, but it is a fascinating take on the way that memory affects the truth of events. Highly recommend it. It's a good film. I do believe it's rated R, but I think anybody who's listening to the program is not worried about R rating. So, okay, yeah, I gotta wrap this up.
Yep.
Basically, Niles was found guilty and was given a life sentence, but then a year later, that was overturned during an appeal because the evidence was just not great, and it was contradictory.
Yeah.
So while many of the investigators and law enforcement involved, like in the various branches, judiciary or whatever, believe that they caught their man and that the case is closed, but officially the case remains unsolved, and at this point you're not going to have what you need to solve it.
My heart goes out to their family.
Mm-hmm. It's not happening. This isn't the Golden Case Killer. You're not going to suddenly have DNA evidence coming up doing anything great for anybody. It's gone.
Those poor kids. They go out to have a good time, and it just...
Yeah. That always breaks my heart, is the cases where people were doing something so normal, so innocent, something they should be able to be safe doing. And it ends so horrifically.
I mean, they went out, they went as a group, they were prepared.
Mm-hmm. And there is people, you're always going to find the people who victim shame in these stories, and it's so sad because people go like, oh yeah, there were a bunch of kids out there, and well,
I wonder
they had their motorcycles, and you had 2 young girls with 2 older boys, and da da da. It's like, so what? First of all,
anybody who rides a motorcycle, there's trouble. They're bad.
Now, to be clear, I do not think 15-year-olds should be having sex. Let's just start there. However, so what?
I mean, that's why everyone on this earth is here. People had sex.
You didn't have, it really doesn't fall under statutory. The age ranges are, yes, at 15 and 18, it is huge and it's scary, and you certainly don't want your 15-year-old having sex with an 18-year-old. But when you look at when you look at the age differences, you get older, like you wouldn't think anything. Somebody in their 20s, 30s dating someone 4 years older and having and once again, I do not condone this action. But I'm saying, especially in the 60s, when people were more prone to get married younger and stuff, they should be able, those kids should be able to go out there, party on the beach, have a camp,
15.
Whether or not it involved sexual activity is utterly irrelevant.
Exactly. And I mean, I think that
experience,
having 2 older boys, should have made the difference. These girls should have been safer.
Exactly.
By themselves, they were with more mature people. And that makes me wonder if there was more than one person.
Yes. See, that was another thing that people really came to with when Niles came under questioning, is they're going, one 18-year-old kid murdered 3 teenage children, or 3 teenagers, including one who probably could have kicked his ass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this just doesn't, the physicality of it just doesn't add up.
No, and if Niles was sleeping somewhere else that night and he heard it, he could have been late and knocked unconscious.
Yeah. Who knows? He might have been out taking a piss. We don't know. So, and if he had a blow to the head, his memory of that might not be the best. First of all, trauma erases memory.
Mm-hmm.
This is science. Trauma erases memory.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I read that.
All physical trauma to the head. Even if you have a concussion, you can lose time. I don't know. I'm not saying I know one way or another what happened. I'm just saying there are questions. So
there's reasonable doubt with Niles.
Yeah. We are going to wrap it up with that. We appreciate you guys watching. Oh, my brain died. So remember, everybody, be a bitch, carry a big stick, and don't get murdered. Okay, thank you for joining us tonight, Kelsey. All right, bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.